André Noël Chaker.
Yay, beautiful.
Author, award-winning keynote speaker, I'm going to stay with my list, musician, entrepreneur, coach, business leader, father, husband, rhetorician, lawyer, and singing telegram. From what I've learned in the podcast I've been listening to. You've got 5 languages, English, French, Italian, Spanish, and Finnish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there any more since I learnt that information?
No, we're good with that.
Okay, right, yeah. I think that's enough to start with.
Yes.
I mean, you could call yourself a bit of a polymath.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And considering, I think from your early upbringing, from what I've learned about your early upbringing, polymath is not a bad word because the world of your father and your education evolved a little bit around rhetoric and studying Aristotle and following in his footsteps to McGill University, which is in Montreal.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me get to first, before we really start, why I asked you on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, since I first moved to Finland, 10 vuotta sitten, 10 years ago, we won't do this in Finnish because it'll be a shambles on my part. But I've come across your name many times and I've met people in the entrepreneurial world, in the business industry world and beyond who, and whenever your name is brought up, it comes with a few terms. And I want to bring these to you. No, this is why...
Must I hear this?
They're positive.
Oh, thank you.
In fact, the first one, I'll let you know, is positivity.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It seems like every time your name pops up, it's with delight. People speak of you with passion and verve, and you always have a smile on your face also. And I can see that your way of being, however that's come to be, or however you've developed that, is certainly towards well, you have a positive aura, outlook, and persona. The second one is your I guess tenacious appetite for knowledge. From the research I've done on you, which isn't extensive unfortunately, but I'm learning all the time, is that you spend a lot of time researching and actually spending time diving deep into the topics that you're working on. It's not just, you're not just taking for granted what you're speaking on or who you're talking with. You seem to have a real, like, true understanding. And that's something key that I'd like to talk about as well. The birth of that. But also the last of the 3 kind of elements that I believe are powerful and valuable and why you're here today is that you have a sheer unfuckwithable energy.
Is that a direct quote from somebody?
Almost, yeah. I actually toned it down a little for the podcast. So
that's lovely.
Once upon a time, you put someone towards me who was looking for some voice coaching and perhaps articulation work.
Yeah.
But they didn't want that. What they wanted was to be you. And I said, I can't make you him. They didn't say that in so many words, but they wanted to know how you had that energy on stage. And perhaps also in person as well, because you carry yourself like at a high level everywhere I seem to see you. So I'm sure there's downtime, but we'll come to that.
Oh, yeah.
Because there must be. You can't be up there all the time.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, positivity, tenacious appetite for knowledge, and a sheer unfuckwithable energy. So what I'd like to dig in today, rather than your accomplishments, of course, we will talk about what's going on with you and your business and businesses and your speaking and books. But what I'm most curious about is how does one develop such a vivid and vivacious mojo, right? How does one actually spark that kind of flame that burns so brightly and affects everyone around them and actually has secured you in Finland after 30 years of living here, perhaps more now, as someone who's crossed many worlds, from academia to singing, to business and entrepreneurship, as well as speaking on stage and coaching others as well. And from what I just learned having lunch with you a minute ago, also hosting the most popular destination for weddings in Europe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Go figure. Life surprises you.
So I guess with that, this is really my first question now, is I'd love to start with your early life in Montreal because, as I understand it, you're one of 4 children. Is that correct?
That's right.
Where are you in that, in that level? Are you the oldest, the youngest, somewhere in the middle?
I'm the youngest, and I am an accident.
You're the youngest.
I'm the accident. I was not planned. My sisters, Marilyn, Pierrine, and Désirée, were all born 10 years before me. My parents were already pretty old, and then accident happened. Irma, my Italian mother, is pregnant against all odds. I think she was late 30s, maybe. But they weren't planning this and didn't really want another child. Though they probably did deep down, I guess, subconsciously. But I was not planned. I was a mistake. And then I appear in a family where everybody is much, much older. I have no peers. I have no sisters or brothers my age.
What was the next age up from?
Désirée is 10 years older than I am.
10 years.
Yeah. So she's 10, I'm 0. And then, and I'm very grateful to them. The other thing is that it's a very female-driven environment, or let's say that my father was there, but my father taught rhetoric and literature across Canada. He was at the University of Ottawa, University of Halifax. He was not globe-trotting, but Canadian trotting, teaching, writing his books, teaching in different places. And when he was, he was a warm and gregarious man, but not somebody who would take care of people that way, but he would perform well, and he was extremely smart and charismatic, and of course a great inspiration.
In a world
for
ruled by
part of what I
intellect
do
but
in my life.
starved of intuition, a world
and
divided by
if you wanted
conflict,
love from my
fear,
father,
and distraction,
you needed to
are
express
we
yourself
as
well.
humans losing our
In
way?
French.
Have we
High
drifted
French,
too far from that inner
Moliere's
essence,
French,
that
if possible,
spark
to
that
make
once
you smile.
allowed us to truly thrive? I sincerely hope not. Because as a
dynamic
father,
of a
husband,
very
and
feminine
creative
upbringing.
mind,
And I would say
I
that
still believe
my
in a future where we
personality,
can
the
connect,
the big
create,
five
and
analysis
find
as
light
one-
in the darkness.
one
So,
analysis.
what might
I'm
it
more
take
of
to
a woman,
rekindle that flame within us, to return to
from a
ourselves?
personality perspective.
This
It's much more than my
podcast
wife, my
explores
Finnish
human
wife.
performance,
It
not
makes
as
us smile,
competition,
right?
but
I
as
have a typical
expression,
profile of
as the
a
result
extrovert.
of how we
So-
live,
so it's
think,
extroversion
move,
is not
breathe,
something that
and
is
speak.
gender-
We'll hear from people at every
gender
stage of
the
their
two
journey,
things where men
sharing
and women
real
are
stories and
personality-wise
practical
quite close
insights,
to each other,
so we
except
can
for two
all
things.
learn to regain,
agreeableness
train,
and
and
neuroticism.
maintain our inner flame.
sensitivity.
I'm Darren McStay. Welcome to Hack
the degree
Mojo.
to which you master your emotions. So I am a little bit more neurotic and much more agreeable than most men, I would say. Giving me a female pride. It comes from being educated by 6 women. So these 3 older sisters, my mother Irma, my grandmother Maria, and my aunt who was handicapped. She had polio and never recovered, and so she had a lasting handicap. But she was the most tenacious and most hardworking person I had ever seen.
Was she close by where you lived in Montreal?
All of these people lived under the same roof. This is Italian style living.
Yeah, okay.
The whole clan is there. It's a different ballgame. So I grew up. I saw women evolve from puberty to the grave. And I was very close to women, and again I've replicated this in my own life. My closest friends, my best friends in the world are women. Still, so I guess the positivity / agreeableness. There's something where I feel I need to take care of people. There's my aunt Kiki, who was an inspiration, took care of me. I wanted to take care of her as well. Maybe that's part of the psychological background of my upbringing. That those were the dynamics at play.
Yeah. So with 10 years difference between you and the next sibling, and such a female influence. And your father was away a lot, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, working.
Yes.
Is he French, or Italian as well?
No. He was a professor of French literature.
However, he was
born
and raised.
He was born and raised in Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And he's from Greek and Egyptian descent.
Okay, so he travelled a lot, perhaps through his life.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that continued into your early childhood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess then, obviously, your mother's a school teacher. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. What was her subject?
French also.
It's interesting that you're the youngest because the last guest I had on was also the youngest.
Okay.
And a sense of joy to the family.
Okay.
And she also had positivity as one of her things. So the fact that you pulled positivity out of those three things for this part of the story is quite interesting because it ties in really well with what she was saying, Rebecca Ward. So was there then, from a young age, kind of a clear with a professor father and teaching around the country, and your mother as a school teacher also, like a clear academic background or an expectation that you were sort of born into study, if you like, or were you led more to be able to play more with intuition? And I know that at some point in your life you moved from a French area to an English area, and that changed dynamic somewhat in your life. I don't know what age that was, but before that move, perhaps. What age were you when you?
5.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
Then that's a good place to move on to, I think, because from what I've understood in previous podcasts that I've listened to, that created some kind of adversity and a dynamic which was unpleasant at the time. And so from a 5 years old, I mean, I have a similar experience myself, not having moved, but just having grew up where I grew up, and at a time and a place.
You didn't belong there?
Oh, not at all, no. I was born in 77, East London, towards Essex. It's in this like border town, doesn't know what it quite is. And a lot of immigrants were moved there. So a lot of Caribbean, a lot of Irish. My mother's Irish. My father left when I was born. And so she was on her own. 2 ginger children, Irish, IRA, 80s, East London. There was a lot of we were considered the terrorists of the flats.
All right.
And there was a lot of
I can
division and
very similar to my background.
I understood that. That's why I was interested in it. Because I'm curious in what drives us, and so this could be a key part in your formative years. It's right in the bang center between 2 and 7 or 8, and I'd love to know more about
maybe 2 answers to the 2 questions that you just posed. One is that we were all expected to be university educated, all of us, all 4 of us, and all 4 of us are university educated. Turns out my 3 sisters are educators and teachers, and I turned into a lawyer. Went to McGill, but everybody went to McGill except Desiree. Desiree went to Concordia. She's the rebel, which is the other English language university in Montreal. Yeah. Everybody else went to McGill, which is a bilingual university, traditionally English, but now bilingual, for all intents and purposes. So, huge demand on, first of all, speaking well and elegantly. Even a 5-year-old. I had to impress my father, get his love. I had to be able to recite. I had to recite poetry, La Fontaine, as perfectly and eloquently as I could. And then he would say, "Bravo, fiston, bravo," like well done.
And if you didn't do it well,
and then he would ignore you. So I guess from that perspective, he didn't really, he believed, which is interesting, he believed that there's only one noble profession in the world. It is that of the teacher and professor. Everybody else is sort of, these engineers, they're all like, they're doing all these concrete things and no, business, money, terrible. But if you're a teacher, if you understand literature, if you're a man of sophistication or woman of sophistication, you're worth. Right. It was an interesting mindset for that, and then our difficult years, our 70s, and which people, your story is better filmed in movies because of the British Empire. We tend to know more about Ireland than we do about Quebec. C'est la vie. But we had terrorists in the 70s. In the early 70s, when I moved as a 5-year-old. To Cartierville, which is Cartierville at that time was at least my part of Cartierville it was bilingual, but my part of Cartierville, where my parents moved from East Montreal, from the French-speaking part of the city to Cartierville North, everybody spoke English, and at that was it the year before that le FLQ is le Front de Libération du Québec, which is our terrorist group, which wanted to see the province of Quebec separate from Canada by force.
Okay.
This was their political agenda and also their military agenda. They were a militarized, violent group, and they had kidnapped an English-speaking minister and ultimately killed him, which fueled the culture wars in Montreal and Canada in general, but especially Montreal, where we had, at that time, Montreal was 70% French-speaking, 30% English-speaking. Now it's like 90-10, right? So it's gone down quite a bit, right?
In the reverse?
So 90 French and 10, only 10% English-speaking.
Right, so it didn't completely flip.
Yeah. But huge exodus of the English-speaking Montrealers at late 70s, 80s, 90s, and then by the 2000s, they're under 10%. But at that time, it was like 70-30, maybe 65-35. I would have to check, but it was like that was the sort of the dynamics. But at the same time, we had visionaries, men like Justin Trudeau's father, who was God to many of us, Pierre Trudeau, with a vision of a truly bilingual Canada, a Canada where everybody would be solidly bilingual, and we would be the most bilingual nation on earth. And this was our advantage, our competitive advantage. We can go anywhere, and we would be more educated than our southern neighbors because they only speak English. And there were all kinds of things there. And my parents bought into that. They said, okay, now we are a French-speaking family. Let's move to the English part of town so that we can achieve this vision of being a great Canadian family, and everybody will speak, ambidextrously English and French, and then our kids will have a great future, and blah blah blah.
So the motive was to help you learn the language better.
Correct.
Wow.
But then what happened is that in the middle of terrorists killing a minister, it was pretty flared up, right? So the reception committee was not very warm, and especially for kids. And the parents in the English neighborhood were polite. But the kids, they were like, hey, he's speaking French. Terrorist. Hey, you fucking fraud, get over here. And boom, boom, boom. It was like, not good. Wow. But then, and I tell this story often, which is, I don't know, you can interpret it in many ways, but the leader of the gang, he was a 9-year-old. I was 5. He was like maybe 8 or 9 years old. And then I grew, and I was maybe 10 years in that neighborhood. And Ricky, we became friends in the end, but at the first he was this English-speaking bully, Ricky Francis, and I got into McGill Law School, which requires you to speak fantastic English, but also fantastic French. I first entered into the civil law, then common law, English common law, but you were required to speak great English, right? So I got in because Francis beat me up as a kid, and I'm grateful.
Paid attention.
Yeah, exactly. But then what I learned is that Ricky, when I graduated, and I think I had already written the New York bar exam, which is another big milestone for me as a French Canadian, being accepted to the New York bar, which is our closest neighbor, New York State, but it's a very prestigious bar. It's Wall Street. It was my dream to find out that Ricky had already spent a year in jail in Ontario. Okay. So, okay, you could say revenge is sweet, but you can also say that he didn't want to learn from me, but I was happy in the end to learn from him, and I think I became a better person by learning, by being positive, seeing that what was negative was perhaps just a way of moving forward into something more valuable.
Almost, I guess, people try to justify what happens to them in some way.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah.
And you were like looking at, you actually saw it as a lesson.
Yes.
And you were learning in real time that was a lesson. Do you think then perhaps that's with what was going on, obviously if your family all became educators and you decided law, perhaps it was seeing this unjustness in the world and the division in the area you moved to when you were 5, and then obviously being treated by other children this way, that you thought, I'd like to do something about this. What was that spark, or was that the spark that turned you towards law as a professional?
I was president of my school at McGill, at Collège Mont Saint Louis. I defended students. I was a defender of the masses. I was representing.
So you felt the injustice of it.
I felt the injustice of it. But if I'm completely honest, there was a power issue. I felt that the English in my country were not valuing us enough. And I wanted to show them that I can beat them at their game. Yeah. I can be an English language lawyer. I can be a New York lawyer and be better than the guys who beat me up when I was 5 years old. I think that, sitting down on my own psychological couch, I think that there was an element of showing them that we are worthy.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that goes two ways, and then it must reflect really well on your home life, because there must have been support there for you to have taken that perception on the events and take that direction. Because I know for a long time I thought I went the other way. I didn't think that I could stand up for myself. I thought I was worthless, and so for many years I went down the wrong path. It's only really in the last 20 years that I kind of turned it around. Or less than that, actually, I'd say. It was when I decided to become an actor that my life changed completely. I kind of almost got back on track to what I should have been doing before, as a child, which is interesting. But it really can depend on what's going on in the homestead. This study ethic that you've grown into, perhaps not just through the home influence, but also from the need and the will to change the world in a sense and become better and prove them wrong. It's clearly stayed with you, but do you think there's a system that you found useful to help you stay curious towards education? What is it that drives the passion to want to learn now? Or is it still stemming from the same circumstances as what happened back then? Do you think that gave you a spark of, I need to know more, I need to be better, and that continued? Or do you have to reimagine yourself? Because obviously, like I said, I've named you a polymath. You might not like that term, but
it's fine,
you've done many things and done many things well. And with the research that you do and the depth that you bring to every occasion, where does that passion come from? Or that remaining curious is what I'm interested in, especially academically.
Yeah.
Because for many people that can be like a headache.
I've thought of this, of course. It's a fascinating question. Thank you for asking it. And I think that we all have different levers of motivation for learning and growing and changing and transforming ourselves, and if we so wish, obviously. But for me, those levers of change have always been through a fascination with communicating with others. I wasn't a very scholarly boy, and my father was very worried about me when I was 15 years old. I was much more interested in social life and girls at the time, and then rock music. And then I appeared on Canadian TV, French Canadian TV, with my rock band, and then we started getting invitations to play in bars across Quebec and even a little bit in Ontario. And as a teenage band. The problem is when you're 15 years old and you're playing in a bar, is that you need your parents to sign off a piece of paper that says, I hereby let my underage young man perform in your bar. So, but of course he cannot drink and blah blah blah. It was like standard form stuff. And then of course I bring this to my father. My father was not only very very educated, a professor, French, and a person driven by excellence at least in communication. He was also a devout Catholic. He was president of the Canadian the Canadian Catholic Family Association. Okay. So for a while. Okay. So and there I am, the guy who wants to play in a rock. Hey, Dad, can you sign this paper for me? And he goes, Je préfère mourir que de signer ce papier, which I prefer to die than to sign that paper. You have long hair, you look like a girl, you smell awful, and you're a terrible student. I'd rather die than to sign that piece of paper. I will never sign. You have to change. Right? So there goes my music career. Then I think about it for a couple of days, come back, I put my hair up, I go take a shower, I look, I wear something nice, a bit of a blazer, look more conservative, and say, Papa, you're absolutely right. I'm going to get my act together. I'm going to get my act together so well that I, from now on, will be an A student. an A student. Right now, I'm getting C's and D's. Okay, barely. From now on, in every subject, Papa, I will get A's. And for as long as I have A's, I would like you to give me the right, as an extracurricular activity, to sing with my band in these bars. Because it gives me great joy to connect with people and to display another part of my talent. If we make this deal, I promise. And the day I do not get an A in anything, I will stop music on that day. I promise you. He thought about it for a couple of days. He signed the paper. Of course, thinking I would never succeed. And then the transformation began. I started, studying on the buses, going from gig to gig, and physics and French and math and English, and then more just to show him that I can do this, and because I really wanted to sing with my band. It was like a cool thing, and I was very loyal to my parents. I didn't want to rebel completely. And then I discovered, my God, I'm a lot smarter than I thought, and I started getting A minus, A plus, A plus, A plus. And then it drove my father crazy. He would see me coming in from a gig at like 5 a.m. saying that, I'm having breakfast, I'm going downtown to write my exam, Dad, and another A coming. See ya. And he was furious, but maybe happy deep down.
Of course.
So these were my motivations I was motivated by interaction, communication, creation, and then realizing that I can tap into my talents through exploring the knowledge of others and the counsel of others, and that would direct me into a certain way, and then I would be motivated to read and develop and think, and that's what happened to me.
Within that, however, to be something that I think is quite critical, especially for someone listening to this and who might get some value from it, is that you earned your own right to your education. Yeah. In a sense, you stood up for yourself and said, I want, if I want this joyous occasion or to do this thing, this extracurricular activity that I want, then I have to work hard to get it. And in doing that work, it became enjoyable because you knew the light at the end of the tunnel was waiting for you. And so you earned that right. Yeah. And there's something about that I want to sort of sit with for a second, because it resonates somehow with the idea of, the kid who has a paper round and stays up all summer to buy a computer, right? That computer is much more valuable to him than if his parents just got him one, because he'd be on it for 5 minutes playing games and get bored, go out
it's
again.
Earned.
Yeah, that you earned the right to your own education. And I think there's something really beautiful in that. And thinking of achievements and purpose and all of these things that make us feel valuable and valued and create that curiosity for more, I think is somehow encapsulated in your approach to your father there, and how you directed yourself and managed yourself into getting what you wanted, and then ended up enjoying the process in the process.
Yeah, and being surprised by the potential of being humble, and putting yourself out there, taking the moonshot. It's a complete moonshot that a C or a D level student will become an A student. It's completely, what most people would say, it's impossible, right? But it's just my love for music and for this extracurricular activity was so great. I'm gonna give it all in. I have nothing to lose. Let's go all in. And I've done this over and over again through my career. Moonshot. Let's just do something completely impossible. Put ourselves out there, and wherever the chips fall, it'll be in a better place than if I had not tried it at all. And in this case, it turned out, of course, beautifully. I became president of my school twice. I entered McGill as one of the youngest in history, as a law student. It was, and I discovered the beauty of learning and the addiction that I developed for learning. It started from that inflection point in my life, where I was forced to do it, and I felt that I was forced to do it. Why did I feel that I'm forced to do it? I think that has a lot to do with, of course, values. I huge respect for my parents, brainwashed with Catholic education. So you respect your parents, I could have just said, oh, yeah, I'm moving out, and do the drugs and sex and rock and roll. I could have done that. But no, I respected my parents. I wanted to make them happy, make myself happy, and find a compromise. I didn't want to rebel completely.
It's almost like by having your the rock band, you had something to bargain for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And 15, perhaps that's also an important age too. Because you're really not a child anymore, but you're really not an adult either. It's a crossover period. I mean, that could have been. You could have said F you, signed it yourself, and gone and done those things, and then forgotten about it, and you wouldn't be here now.
Exactly.
These points in our life can really send us in different directions.
Yeah, and that was a huge moment.
And I've heard you also talk about gratitude and positively about love and passion and these things that supply us with a certain energy. And if we're talking about you as someone with that unfuckwithable energy, it's good to know where it comes from. And I think gratitude is a word that I've more and more come to learn as being something is a useful tool in life, because no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, you can use what you have and what is available to you and be thankful for that in order to really get the most out of whatever situation you're in. And it's never as bad as someone else. The sun still came up this morning. We just had a lovely lunch and there's water in the tap, or or even if you live somewhere dry, it rained today, there's always something to find positive. And obviously the security of the home life and that base, which obviously led you toward the correct decisions in the end, because not everyone listening will have had that. And so perhaps what can we use from that to give people who may not have had that security in the home life, about staying positive and finding that gratitude? Do you have a practice for yourself? Are you still religious?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. My mother was raised a Catholic. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
She raised me in a different religion to what she was raised. And I don't necessarily go to church myself. I have my own devotion, if you like, my own relationship outside of a specific dogmatic community. And that's been working for me quite fine. However, there's times when I realize community is so important.
I'm not very religious. I believe in God. I identify myself as a Catholic because it's many generations of Catholics in my family, but mostly because I still buy into the value set and to the inspirational, transformational stories that have molded our civilization, and I feel very attached to that. I go to church maybe 5 times a year, so I'm not what my wife calls himo uskovainen. She says, you're, oh my God, you're going to church. It's like, oh my God. Yes, I go, in my opinion, well, compared to what I used to do, I was an altar boy. I used to go every week, like in many masses every Sunday. I think I've run to enough masses in my life, but I like to go once in a while and to reflect and to give thanks and to be grateful, to take a step back and a deep breath and contextualize things.
Do you do this in your life outside of those times?
Absolutely, and mostly outside of those things. Yeah. I believe in physical movement and sports for this. Believe it or not. I
get with you.
Yeah, I get my most inspiration, the most context, and most fulfilling experiences of gratitude come from running in nature. I have the functional body. I have access to the most beautiful gift of the universe, is this nature. And I'm alive, I'm kicking, I'm breathing, I'm racing through this forest, and I give thanks to whoever gave me all these things every time. And then there's fundamental things, and then I come and I've been lucky enough to be good enough of a person to have attracted the most amazing spouse, and to have produced two amazing children, and they energize me with gratitude every time I see them, and I give thanks for them every day.
Yeah, there's something in that, isn't there? But the movement is something that last year I did my first marathon, and it was the Nuxio marathon.
Good for you.
For those watching, we are in a sauna house right now, and I'll show you the image of the outside. And it's on the mouth, at the mouth of Nuuksio National Park in Uusimaa, Finland. So in the southern part of Finland. It's interesting actually, because you know a lot about Finnish history, right?
Oh yes.
And as a runner, you might know this, that over 100 years ago, Finland was like #1 for cross country and long distance running in the world.
Yeah, of course.
And actually, it kind of brings us back onto what we talked about with the church as well, is that what made them strong, what made them actually the best in the world, was the fact that they run in groups. Yes. They run as a community, and it became a thing that they did together. Of course, there were certain names that stood up amongst others, but they led the way for many years. And now, I believe, in the countries that do the best in the long distance running, in the African countries like Ethiopia and
they run together.
Yeah, they run together, and it's part of it's just part of the way of life now.
Yeah. And of course, it's competitive.
Well, it's also a way out of an economic situation which can improve your circumstances.
Yeah, but it's co-opetition. So every runner there is a competitor, as well as a compatriot. So it's that dynamic. I'll show. One of my very good friends.
Co-opetition is a word I've not heard before, and I really like it.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful word, and it describes that dynamic. I mean, I've run with some of the great runners of the 1970s in this country. Lasse Viren, and he's Lasse is a legend, and I lobbied and ultimately pitched the idea of hosting the World Championships in athletics for Finland, and against all odds we won, and I scripted that and sang at that during that pitch. It's its own story, but these running legends are inspirational. Because they had a sense of community, and when I wrote the closing speech, the closing words of Lasse Viren in Nairobi when we were pitching for the 2005 games, and I opened this presentation by singing a Finnish folk song. The reason I sang it is because it was a song that Ferreira da Silva, who was a triple jumper, had sung to Finnish women, because he wanted to hit on Finnish women in 1952, and as a dark Brazilian gold medalist, he did very well with the women of the 50s, and then he became a huge friend of the country, and then passed away. But just before passing away, he had sung this song to our national team, and that was our message. This is the great story of how you create memories that last a lifetime, even if you don't have Moscow's money or Berlin's great stadium. We have this authenticity to the true love of athletics in Finland, and it could not be more authentic than the legend Lasse Viren closing that, dear African brothers, we were in Nairobi. I remember training here with you as a community. We were running against each other and with each other in the mountains, altitude training. Okay, it wasn't like completely legal, but anyway. And then we had a great technique. It was running till we dropped. But now I only have one wish, is that you come one last time in this lifetime back to me in Helsinki for the World Championships that we can build together. Thank you. We won that vote by one vote, 15-14.
Wow.
For the biggest athletic show on earth, 2005. Relating to this community of running. It's beautiful. It's co-opetition.
It's an interesting topic, especially in Finland for me. I don't need to ask you now, would you say community, how important it is in regards to a positive outlook? I think we've established that quite well. But then Finland itself, as I know it at least, I've been here for 10 years, it's got a strong culture of stoicism and like humility and a deep respect for personal space and keeping it sacred. And I can sometimes, especially as an outsider, see it as emotional restraint, and there's a lot of suppression, there seems to be. And while that's admirable, I also know that in the Nordics there's high rates of depression. And I refuse to believe that it's just because it's dark, because quite a lot of the year. I don't think that is just solely it. But do you think there's something in that, known as the happiest country in the world, and I apparently live in the happiest city in the world because I live in Kauniainen.
That's right.
So
lucky you.
Yeah. But to look around at face value, you would never think that, right? And so Is there something that's changed, for example, from 100 years ago when this community spirit was there and obviously evident in the growth of, athletics at the time, perhaps? And then of course, the Second World War happened and the Cold War and lots of other... They'd already been independent for some time, but there were struggles, civil war. And what happened then? Even though it's considered the happiest country in the world, why are the Nordics? Why there is a lot of depression? Do you? And I'm just, this is a theory. Perhaps is there a lack of community generally amongst communities within? I say community, call them communities, right? But is there a trend towards pulling away, suppression, not really showing our true emotions? I also once was told a phrase from Monica's granddad that if someone smiles at you in the street, they're either an idiot, drunk, or insane. Drunk, insane, or stupid. And there's part of the idea of happiness in that. Why they've got no reason to show. They go, I'm content, and why do I have to please you? It's real happiness. It's not a show of happiness. However, suicide is on the rise globally, especially among young men, and depression is apparent in the Nordics. Alcoholism also, domestic violence. I think that's the if there was an issue in Finland, that would have been number one. Not that it's a violent country really compared to the rest of the world. However, I wonder if part of that being alone, part of that wanting to keep our own space, and part of suppressing emotions leads to explosions and leads to these kind of extreme reactions to the circumstance. How much of that is cultural? How much of that has been developed? And is there enough community in Finland? I guess that's my question.
Wow, that's a long one.
Well, it's just, I guess the question is there still community?
Yeah, but you put in a lot into that in terms of happiness and these cultural attributes and what they mean and what's their significance in the context of community and happiness, and a lot to unpack there. First of all, the exceptionalism of Nordic depression and suicide is a myth now. So if we look at the numbers, it's true. Finland, unfortunately, some media headlines die hard. So it is true that Finland was number one in 1992 because of its economic depression. Many people lost their businesses. Many people committed suicide, and Finland was number one, number two in the world per capita. We're talking per capita, of course. Now Finland is, I think, closer to number 20, in the world. So not great, but not abnormally
no one's pointing the finger.
Depressed or abnormally violent. Actually, we're one of the safest countries in the world by many, except if you know somebody. Usually, the people who will be violent here are which is actually true in almost every country. There's the lion's share of people who will be violent with you are people you know or people you love.
Crime in London is usually amongst gangs who associate with each other.
Exactly. So that's a community you don't want to be a part of. If you want to, we talk about community. So I don't buy into the link between what we are now experiencing as lack of community with these negative social outcomes. I don't see the connections, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
One is I see a loosening of community ties across the world. In my country, especially in Canada, North America, communities are also disintegrated to a certain extent. People are being polarized, and then solitude is becoming more and more of a phenomena throughout the world, throughout the Western world at least. The rich world, the wealth has great power, but it has the power of making people feel that they manage more and more on their own and need less and less the community to support them or drive their interest forward. So I think that is something common to most Western countries. Now, to the communication culture, and I write about this in my book, The Finnish Miracle. Finland has an exceptional communication culture. And a lot of the traits that you allude to are actually, in my opinion, great communication strengths. You see,
yes.
So, and my book, and then my next book actually relates to this, and it's I believe a transformational a book for many people, because we've been testing it on the platform, and it starts with the premise that is rarely explored in at least public speaking literature or verbal communication literature. It starts in a place where you wouldn't necessarily find exceptionalism in speaking. So the community, the Finnish exceptionalism, or the Finnish issues that you've identified that I've challenged, and because on their face it looks like that. You think, oh my God, these people are non-expressive. They don't say hello to me on the street. They don't speak, and so on. It's a problem. And therefore, we have community issues. Therefore, we have mental let's say, weaknesses in people. I think that's a fallacy. I think that's not right.
I didn't quite say that, but
yeah.
I understand.
I'm exaggerating your point of view.
Okay.
Because you're not alone.
Because you're a lawyer.
Okay.
No, please.
Okay. And because I was under the same impression.
Yes.
Okay. Because when you come in from an Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Commonwealth background, you come into this culture, and you might want to assume that. Mm-hmm. Now, where Finns are outstanding communicators is in their ability to do two things that I love now. One, research. We're talking about one of the most well-read and sophisticated nation on earth. Mm-hmm. The strongest, solid education background you can find in the world, mm-hmm. especially per capita. And the okay, we're far from the top of PISA, but we're still very strong on basic education, R&D, development, access to education, access to higher education, research is world class in this country. So the one thing that makes you a great communicator and a developer of relationships is your ability to learn and acquire knowledge, and also something that Finns have taught me is the ability and the culture of listening.
Yes.
This is not a small thing. We step all over each other in North America, maybe even in your country.
Guilty.
We cut each other off. We don't listen really. Finns are actually, it's the same way they will not greet you on the street. They will, but if you do interrupt them, they will deeply listen. They will listen, and as a matter of courtesy and culture, they will want to understand what you're saying, and they will take it in. And so a combination of knowledge and this level of openness, which is this tremendous ability to respect other people's speech and listen, are parts of the equation that is very strong in developing what will then come out as effective communication. So this part is actually a superpower of this culture that I did not quite understand or ascertain before. So we in our cultures, and I refer to our Commonwealth background, we feel that a person who does not speak is a person who's perhaps the challenged, the dumb, shy, not very powerful. But in this culture, it's
sometimes
the opposite.
Perhaps judgmental though as well.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes speaking, you think, why?
Yeah,
it can be unnerving.
It can be unnerving, but I believe that Finns are genuinely interested, at least more than in most countries. That they listen more actively. Whether the level of openness comes from a courtesy, a social courtesy of listening to others actively, and interestingly, a respect of others that is manifested by ignoring them. This is interesting. Okay, so the point is, the social pact here is that I don't want it to waste your time. I don't want to invade your space unless I have a very good reason to do so. And that is the social compact of this culture. is that I do not want to bother you. You do not want to bother me unless we have a very good reason to do so, and that it is relevant for us to interact. If not, we will save each other's time and respect each other in our silence. It's an interesting dynamics. But one of the rare ones. The only culture that I know that has something similar are the Japanese. They are very, very cognizant of people's space and respectful of their space, time, and level of intrusion that you're allowed to impose upon others. And it's interesting how this willingness to respect this to that extreme is, of course, perceived by us as being, antisocial or anti-community, perhaps. And also harm, which is sad. It accelerates the phenomenon of loneliness, which is throughout all Western countries. But because of this cultural attribute of most Finnish people, it actually doesn't serve them well in that domain. But it does serve them well to the point where it is an expression of social respect and not one of, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Because if you do interrupt them, say, I need your help, they will listen. And 9 times out of 10, they'll do something very positive on your behalf.
My first understanding of this silence and this listening came when I was doing a show in Turku. It was a bar, a small bar, in a circle. I think it had once been a public toilets or something, and they turned it into a bar. Smallest bar in Finland, I think. There must have been about 20, 30 seats and a bar, and then it was all in a circle. And so I was at the back of the circle, the bar was here, and then the people were seated around here, and the way out was at the top, like a very mini amphitheatre or something. I hadn't really performed in front of a purely Finnish audience before, and I hadn't quite realised how unnerving it would be until I was halfway through my first song and had no response, no feedback, no understanding of if this is going well or not. Because as a performer, sometimes you rely on understanding so you can adapt. And
reading the room.
Yeah. Should I ramp this up or should I dull it down? And if there's nothing, it's just complete silence. Yeah. And even changing songs, there was no applause in between. I was like, fuck, this is terrible, this is going so badly. And I managed to make it through a 45-minute set, some covers, some of my own songs. Yeah. And afterwards they all clapped very respectfully, and one guy came up to me and said, that was the best gig I've ever seen. I was like, why the fuck didn't you show it? Great, I'm dying up here.
They didn't want to interrupt you.
I can't imagine that stand-up comedy is big in Finland.
It has become so.
I'm seeing more and more English-speaking artists come through, but I've never been to a Finnish stand-up night.
They laugh, of course.
Imagine that.
They know how. They know the right hooks, and I think that you were performing in English, and that creates a certain screen, a cultural screen there, maybe, and also they respected you and wanted to display their appreciation with silence. Yeah, that they are completely focused on you, and then without expressing anything that would drive you off course or something. It's an interesting perspective where they really feel that the stoicism that you interpret and the silence that we experience in Finland is actually oftentimes, not always, oftentimes an expression of respect.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool thing, and also a huge advantage for communication when you're first of all able to speak to people and they genuinely listen and give you space to do so, and when you give yourself space to listen, you offer yourself the opportunity of learning something valuable.
It's a trait that I'm hoping to improve upon. One of the reasons for this podcast is to further my own listening abilities of my own knowledge, and hopefully find ways of bringing out information from people that's useful to others to learn. As I said before, and just mentioning singing then it kind of threw me back to a story that I heard you talk about on another podcast. And because obviously you're a singer yourself, you've been a performer. I didn't know you're actually a rock singer, because that's how I trained in rock. And the person who trained me was also an opera. He was an opera singer and turned to rock. And so I went through certain style of singing coaching, which is kind of aggressive, and lots to do with opening up the intercostal muscles and breathing, which is a foundation for what I do now, actually, only less aggressively. But there's something that ties into who you are, what you bring to the stage, where you're from, and the tenacity you have in believing that anything is possible and dreaming big, because you have to be tenacious, I think, in a certain degree. And that wasn't on my list of 3, but it's certainly there. And it was a story about you singing in a Hell's Angels bar when you were a singing telegram.
Oh, you read that?
And I heard it.
Oh, you heard it.
And I thought it was so interesting. And I also believe that there's something in there.
Oh, yeah.
That's and actually ties in a little bit to what you talked about earlier, where the kid who was bullying you gave you some kind of... You made a mental note that I'm going to be, in a better position than this. I'm going to prove that I can make it. I can do it. I'm not. This is not. Your path isn't my path. I'm going to position myself better because of the way you treated me. Almost, it was like a fire to move you forward. And somehow it's also in this story.
Yeah,
a spark of it, because I believe you were studying law at the time.
That's right. Yeah,
and this was your extra income.
Yeah, right. I was making money on the side. Yeah.
Would you?
I would love to. It's and there's a lot in that story. Many lessons from those times. So yeah, I was in law school, and I needed to make money, and you could wait on tables, or you can you can do all kinds of things when you're a student. And I love music. I mean, again, because I was in a rock band, and I love music anyway. I had a decent voice, and a sense of theatrics. Also, I did a bit of theater in college before McGill, and I saw this ad in the paper. The Singing Telegram Company of Montreal, and this is way before most people who are probably listening to it were born, but. The North America had a boom of singing telegrams in the late 80s, early 90s. Stripograms even. People would come and strip at your house. You would call people and they would come and sing and perform, and they all, all kinds of costumes. Ours was a sort of a stylish...
You're under arrest.
Exactly. And it was very popular for a while. I can just imagine what this probably would not have caught on in Finland at any time, because this imposition of somebody coming and singing in your face, maybe not. But it was huge. It was a huge boom at the time, and they were paying good money. It was a novelty, and we were wearing these bellboy and bellgirl suits, like red suits, like hotel, like bellboys.
Almost like the Grand Pest Budapest hotel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would drive from place to place, and they were very different. So I was like a Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons, and I would sing to people, who were celebrating there, or weddings, with like 500 people, and you would have to perform a cappella. The idea is that you have balloons, you have the words to a song that have been slightly modified for this event, and then in different languages. I sang in French, English, and Italian, sometimes in Spanish also, to different people, and you become like...
Even then you had Spanish?
Yeah, okay. College Spanish. Yeah, okay. So I could, if there was a song read, and I manage the Spanish now. Right. My Italian is stronger because I grew up in it. Anyway, so I would do this, and then once, I remember there was the last gig of the night, East Montreal, which is the French, but the bad neighborhood in East Montreal, like Montreal Nord, which is it's east, northeast. Anyway, bad neighborhood. And then they say, hey, you've got a gig. It's then you always get this briefing. Okay, it's Lynn. Her boyfriend is driving a truck in Western Canada, and he wanted to remember her with these flowers. This is her song. She works in a bar. Go there and do it. I say, okay, all right, I'm going in there. I go in there. This bar had been taken over. Probably had always been taken over by the local motorcycle gang, and it was a Hells Angels affiliation. You can tell Hells Angels, and then I asked, where's Lynn, and they all Lynn is behind the bar, and then immediately there's a leader there who sees what kind of thing I am. Oh, it's one of these singing telegrams, and he says, "Hey kid, you're not singing tonight." And I said, "Yeah, but man, if I don't sing, I don't make the money, and it's her birthday, man. Come on, kid, you're not singing tonight." And I said, "All right, come on, please give me a shot. I'm just a student. I'm just trying to make a buck here, man. Kid, Give her the fucking balloons. Get the fuck out of here. Okay. So Lynn, happy birthday. And I give her the balloons, and then I get out, and then I'm 19, 20 years old, and I get this. Maybe from my past. I mean, maybe I feel that I've been wronged. I feel that I've been violated in my right to sing, and that he's a crook, and I'm at McGill Law School. I'm going to be a top lawyer one day, and I'm going to put guys like that in jail. God damn it. And you know what? I'm going to start now. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to show them I'm not afraid. Right? Go back. Lion's Den, really. And somehow I wanted to show this guy that I'm not intimidated, and that I'm a man of talent, and I'm a man who can sing for a woman who's celebrating her birthday, and she has a right to hear this. I was like, when your adrenaline and maybe the testosterone is kicking in, you don't really think very straight. And I could have gotten myself killed. But anyway, I stood up on the bar. The bar table, like, elevated, and I did like a heavy metal version of "Happy Birthday to You." Yeah, and then I was angry, and apparently it went fairly well because there was dead silence, and Lynn there, the girl, the lady was just crying. Oh, what a cute boy who's gonna die tonight. What a sad. He was so charming. Too bad. And then, the moment that everybody's looking at the leader like Caesar, right? Yeah. And then he looks at me, stone face, and then his wolf teeth, show, and he goes, "That was pretty good, kid. You've got balls, kid. You've got balls. I like that. But get the fuck out before we kill you."
We ended with that. Yeah. I missed that. Wow.
He's like, "Okay, I'll let this pass."
He's like, "You've got balls. Now get out." Get. Now, I wonder if you'd chosen a different genre of music to the style.
Yeah.
It might be different.
I wanted to. Well, I know it's my past. I mean, I sang heavy metal, hard rock. And
so you could. There's a big difference.
Yeah, of course. And then I knew that it would probably resonate with that crowd. Showing that in a way, finding similarity in the style, and saying that, I'm not afraid. I'm free, like the music that you listen to.
Now that is a beautiful, to be unashamed of who you are. Mm-hmm. You know that I work with people on their voice.
Yeah.
And I've come. One of the reasons I initially wanted to start this podcast was actually because the biggest, I wouldn't say issue or problem, but let's just say issue for now. People think that they want to speak more clearly. Mm. People think that they want to get over the fear, this, that, the other. Quite often, from my experience, what I've learned is people don't have enough self-esteem. Mm. And they don't look positively on themselves. Mm. And if they did, they could do so much more. Mm. They would take the leap. Since I trained as an actor, one of the key skills, other than listening, is really to be able to let go of your ideas, let go of what you've learned. Because people think that I learn lines, I've got to remember my lines. But as soon as you do that, you can see that you're looking at your lines in your head and you're reading grammar. So, and I love to, some of my clients I've worked with on public speaking, I've worked a very similar way. It's a completely different, I'm coming from a different place than perhaps we'll talk about rhetoric in a second and your own work. But I think what it is, there's a place that people can get to where they stop considering themselves too much, and they're more focused on who they're delivering to, and necessarily. And because I think once your perspective is towards outside of yourself, you can't think positively towards someone and negatively towards yourself at the same time, and that helps you to fly, and that helps you to let go, and that helps you to really be free and present and engaged. Therefore, engaging in a room
and connect.
And connected, absolutely, and grounded. But there's lots of different ways to get into that. One is by just practicing a lot. But for people that I've dealt with and people look for answers. They look for quick answers. They look for ways that they think, I need a deeper voice. I need to be more attractive. I need
silver
this
bullet.
Exactly. And I've always maintained that these things take time. They take effort, they take practice, they take daily consistency in whatever your practice or discipline is before you see any results. It's like weight training. You know, you don't get a six-pack overnight. It's going to take some time.
I wish it were possible.
You're going to have to, same. You're going to have to eat correctly. You're going to have to train regularly. Yeah. You're going to have to do the right things, sleep enough, drink enough water. And it's funny because sleeping enough and drinking enough water, I think, go hand in hand with having energy and staying positive and being a good speaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the purpose of me saying that was back to somehow tying in from having the audacity or the tenacity to stand up and say, I've got the right. I have the right. And so I want everyone to feel that they have the right, you know, that they can, and they shouldn't dull themselves down, and they shouldn't hold back, or they should not just think outside, you know, just within their box or whatever they've been told to stay in. And that's I think the essence of what I really would love to help people to not learn, but to understand, to know that it doesn't have to be something. Sometimes taking the leap gets you over a certain barrier. It's like that idea of feel the fear and do it anyway. You were in a situation where you were, you know, vulnerable, really, even though you had confidence, even though you had, you know, a secure background, you still had to earn some money, and you're still studying hard, and you had work to do, but Hell's Angels are no joke.
No.
You know, they're serious people.
It was. I would not do it today.
If he was one of the 1%ers, you know, there's a lot of trouble. So, like, a flick of a finger, and that could have, you know, again, you're not here right now. Yeah. So the fact that, and I think the respect came from them because you did, not because you didn't. You didn't walk away from it. You didn't run away from it. And it is that standing up to the bully. It is that proving yourself and knowing that everybody has and is good enough. You know, being human is enough. You don't have to be much more than that. You can improve your situation wherever you are, and you are a testament to moving to the next level.
But courage is a practice.
Yes.
Courage is a practice. It's a daily practice of trying something new, trying something odd, opening yourself to a new idea. It's a daily practice, and if there's anything about the Finnish miracle, and that coming back to this is the practice of Finnish courage. I've met some of the most courageous people in the world here. The story of Finland is a story of courage and of the impossible made possible. Seriously, and I understood this very, very early in my journey here. I've been here 30 years, so. But then it materialized itself when I studied Finnish history and all of this unbelievable display of Sisu, of this courage, this characteristic of the Finnish soul, which is this almost blazing courage of going through what they call the gray stone, and it comes from a courage of a practice of doing things that are hard on a regular basis. It makes you stronger and more resilient, and it's inspiring. Many Finns have shown me this, and I'm very grateful for it.
Do you journal?
I used
about gratitude.
I used to journal. I verbalize my gratitude. I don't, and I've sort of a video part of my gratitude. I also write it in my books, The Finnish Miracle, and now The Speak or Die coming out next year.
So it's more than just research; it's also your
absolutely, and
your own soul.
It's my own soul, and it's the power of human storytelling. You know, and how you could embed all that you learn from science and practice and technology into a narrative that is human, a narrative with people, with problems, with solutions that they've tested in trial and error of different contexts for inspiration and finding purpose with all of this. that is the ultimate legacy that we have for each other, is the stories we tell each other, and good ones are built well and have something important to teach us.
Yeah. I guess we've covered why you unwind, how you unwind through movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love sports.
That's how, when things, with such a busy life, so many things going on, father, husband, business, is running your way to just let go.
Yes, and the Finnish sauna with my wife.
Yes. And the lake, do you go in there?
Villa Stenberg. It's a 5-star resort. It's the most inspirational place on earth. We built 2 saunas, 2 jacuzzis on close to the lake. It's the most inspirational place and the most relaxing place. Just thinking about it, I'm relaxing. Right?
But this is open as an Airbnb, right? So people can hire that.
It's an Airbnb. It's a venue. It's a direct. It's I think Airbnb is now a very, very small fraction of it. Of course, it became popular on Airbnb, and that's why we won this award of sorts of being the best Airbnb for weddings in Europe. It's based on 12 years of weddings. It's almost 110 weddings.
So let it be known, I will be leaving links to Villa. Is it Stenberg?
Stenberg.
Stenberg. Okay. Stenberg in Swedish, I guess.
Yeah.
But also, I'd like to leave links to some of your other things, like the Finnish Miracle book.
Yeah.
Actually, the artwork from that was quite interesting. It looks like Terry Gilliam from Life of Brian.
It's exactly right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finland.
Yeah, on purpose.
Yes, yeah,
not everybody liked that or saw the humor in that. But
did you like Terry Gilliam?
Of course.
Did he design that for you?
No. But
Plagiarism.
I asked somebody to inspire themselves from the Life of Brian.
Yeah, great.
Which is one of my great.
It's one of my favorite films.
I love that film.
One of my favorite films. And every time I watch it, even now, and I've watched it many times,
yes,
I still find something new in there.
Yeah, it's great. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So many levels in that movie.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And
but not everybody appreciated that. Again, it was to do something bold. All Finnish books at Al Talent, with all due respect, at that time, or Alma Talent today, looked the same. And I said, we need something that stands out and that respects the country, but also attracts attention and in the storytelling and a lot of the crazy stories this country has to offer. My God, it doesn't stop. So we'll share links to this as well, because I would love people who are interested in learning more about your soul and your journey as well within the Finnish landscape. But also, if there is almost like a journal for you and you navigating the history of Finland, but with also insights into what it is to be André, like that's useful. I'd put links to everything you're up to, whatever you'd like to put forth. Rhetoric. Yeah, Rhetoric. Yeah, it's my latest baby. It's been your pitch is going to be better than mine at this. You said it enough times. You're probably bored. However, we can go through it briefly. What that is, it's quite an important tool. Yeah. It's a wonderful thing. My father taught the art of rhetoric at McGill University for many years, and languages and literature. So I was very much a child of somebody who loved and executed on the art of la rhetorique quite a bit. And then all of my work has been around speaking. So as a lawyer, as a litigator, and then as a business executive after my MBA in sales and leadership, speaking was my secret weapon, obviously. And probably one of the reasons why we did well is because I think I did well with that, and I selected people who also were very strong verbal communicators, and came to a point where I was after 15 years in technology, I was the CEO of a tech company, and I met a lot of too many engineering friends in Finland. Nokia ultimately bought our company, and so I was really deep in tech, and then I was at Veikkaus when my kids were born. Leading the digitization of the lottery, which was a big project in tech as well. And I came up with this idea and looking at some of the stuff being done with artificial intelligence already in 2016, 2017, saying, what if we can scale people's ability to become better humans and better communicators with artificial intelligence? What if artificial intelligence is not there to kill us all? artificial intelligence will be the greatest teacher of all time, the greatest booster of human potential of all time. And in this particular skill, which is the most human skill of all, the ability to speak to each other. What if we can do that as a moonshot idea? Then I approached these wonderful young technologists, Peter Sarling from this country, Silo AI, they were bought by AMD last year for 660 million euros, which is crazy. But back then he was an unknown AI scientist. And we brought a team of 15 people together with the collaboration of the University of Tampere. Pekka Isotalos was an old friend from Jyväskylä University when I was there for 10 years.
Yeah.
And we created what I believe to be the most effective platform to enhance human abilities to speak using artificial intelligence. We've sold this to over 100 companies across Europe. I'm very proud of the work we've done, and we today actually have launched a global site for this that I'll be sharing.
This is good because, as you know, my other channel, Improve Your Voice, which has been fairly successful on YouTube, a lot of my listeners will be here listening to this, and many people I know, I have clients, personal clients as well as customers, and people I've worked with and students who do work in the corporate sphere and could really use this tool.
It's really cool. I really recommend it.
So today is a landmark.
Yeah, it's a landmark thing. Well, we did a bit of a pivot on it. You'll see it's rhetoric.ai. It's now live, and we haven't marketed it in the Nordics yet, but we're approaching key corporate customers around the world in a particular segment, and it's fabulous to see people being transformed with this. And because a lot of the things that we've done traditionally with speaking, which is great that we have this human approach and a coaching approach, and in many cases it's appropriate, but for many people it's a barrier, especially to its scalability, because Darren can be everywhere, right? But last month alone, the words, how do I improve my communication skills in any language in roughly the same meaning, was Googled 1 billion times. 1 billion times.
Yeah.
As AI is automating thinking, writing, and other technical issues, the relative value of human speaking is just rising and rising and rising. And how do I create a personal brand for myself? How do I communicate verbally when I meet people? These things are the only things where we are going to be outcompeting robots, at least for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. So, but how can AI help me improve in this particular discipline? That's super exciting. And we now have many competitors. When we started, we had very few. Now we have many competitors. So we're finding ways to pivot and to compete with them in very innovative ways. And it's been wonderful to see scientists, corporate leaders, even educators, scientists, lawyers, people who are extremely smart, who have a 9 or 10 out of 10 competence in their field, who sounded more like a 5 out of 10 kind of professional because of the way they communicated, become much more proficient in a very short time.
So there's a clear feedback system and
exactly.
a way to view your progression,
exactly,
if you like, and track it.
It's data driven, and it's boosted. We can boost it with AI, with education.
You can see the results.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to just guess that they're
and you can do it privately. You don't need to be judged at first.
Right.
It's one of the greatest fears of humans is to be rejected and to speak in public. It's way up there with the fear of snakes and fear of high places, which is funny because you would think that the top fears for humans would be the fear of death and fear of illness, but actually our top fears are things that are quite irrational, like the fear of public speaking and snakes and fear of high places. But they are real fears, and AI and a platform like ours helps you come into that with no judgment.
Yes,
and no fear.
But are there also, from what there are also real coaches involved with that too? Yeah,
it's an add-on for people who still want to have humans.
Because I know there's a lot of people who would who like the idea that there's a human element to that
absolutely.
as well. Yeah.
And typically you start off platform, and then when you're ready, you reach out to the human coaches, and we'd love to have you on the network. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, we should.
And as we go global, I mean, we need to have in every geography people who are willing to help people along this journey. How to make them more powerful humans through more impactful speech, and it's beautiful. We can give that, it's sort of a legacy project for me, and something that I want to give back, and it's been great. It's with thousands of executives from around the world already, so I'm very happy.
It's a great name.
Yeah, rhetoric. Yes.
Rich rhetoric.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm going to leave links to rhetoric and the books that you choose to share.
Thank you. Yeah.
As well as anything you want to share. Just leave it with me, and I'll put it on the links below this episode.
Well, thank you.
And I think we should wrap it up now, because it's getting dark outside. It's
3
p.m.
Is the sauna warm already? Let's go.
well, yeah. I mean, you have a birthday celebration to organise.
That's right. Yes. My wife is turning 50 tomorrow. Oh my God, I have to prepare.
I mean, I've got so much more, but we can save it for another time. And next time we'll have the fire on. We can actually have the sauna. We can get in the lake, and we can do the whole.
Yeah, there. Now you're talking. That's a format.
Great. It's really nice to actually finally sit down properly and see you in person, because we've met in passing.
Yeah.
When the first time I ever saw you, I'm not sure if you'd remember, but it was in Restaurant Jord in Campi when I was working there when I first moved here in 2015, and it was one of the guests at the table that I was serving wine to had pointed out that you learnt Finnish perfectly, and I was been there a week, so the only thing I could say was en puhu suomea hyvin, and I think maistuuko. Then when people answered, I said English please. And I remembered you because you were pointed out to me as being a bit of a unicorn, really, with the language and everything you'd achieved at the time. And you'd have been here for 20 years at the time, if I remember.
Yeah.
And your face stuck for some reason, and maybe because I was a new immigrant and whatever. And so over the years, when I've heard about you and your name's popped up, I've always been drawn to wanting to speak to you, and maybe I've been shy too, and I wanted the opportunity, or to create the opportunity, to actually get you sat down in front of me.
Thank you for this.
Ask some of these questions, and I could learn about you anywhere, really. So some of the things I wanted to ask of you were left field of the usual questions, I hope, and
they were. It's
wonderful. Been interesting for me to learn who you are, not just what you do. And so thank you, because as I've said before on Hack Mojo, what I aim to do is to extrapolate that from people, to find out what keeps that fire burning, what sets them apart from others, and what helps you to continue motivating yourself and others around you with such positivity, unfuckwithable energy, and tenacious appetite for knowledge. So it's been a pleasure to meet you and have you on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this time.
Yes.
Thank you for listening today. As a new podcast, we truly value your feedback. It helps us grow, improve, and connect with the guests that you want to hear from. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to the channel and share it with a friend or anyone who might benefit from these discussions. Your support makes a real difference, not only in helping us cover the costs of production, but in allowing this show to reach more people around the world. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can visit our donation page to contribute directly as we continue to expand the channel. Thank you for being part of this journey and for helping keep the flame alive.